Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Our next presenter is Elizabeth Plourde, and she is going to be speaking about how high antioxidant diets protect from today's ubiquitous toxic sunscreens and EMF radiations. Elizabeth is a licensed clinical laboratory scientist with degrees in both biological science and psychology. This training in the fields of both medicine and psychology is augmented by invaluable experience gained while working with cutting-edge medical laboratories specializing in the cancer and DNA research. She is using this expertise to focus her attention on the hazards of sunscreen and how they are impacting our children and the environment. Her information brings to light what has been clearly proven in studies for decades regarding the harm sunscreen chemicals cause. Let's give her a welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate all of you being here. I really do. The hardest part about having been a medical researcher for 35 years now is what I uncover and put together that the whole world doesn't know yet. And I want the whole world to know. So I ask you to go out. I used to say 10 people, but tell 100. Because we really need to spread this information. I just, as I'm doing the research, piecing it together, the harm that's to our children is just so astronomical, and it's just going to multiply in the generations if we don't stop it now. We really don't. So I have written 5 books. I'm on the 5th book just actually. It's still in galley copy. We're still in the final printing. But I started out looking at women's hormones, and because of that, I'm a North American menopause certified menopause practitioner, and I've been consulting around the world, and I got into the EMF because I started hearing from all these women in the San Francisco Bay Area about 7 years ago, all saying the same thing. I'm tired. I've got these headaches, I can't sleep, and I'm so irritable. They all said the same words. And they said, I'm 40, 41, so I must be going into early menopause. And I have a 6-page profile I have them fill out, and they weren't hormonal. It was not a hormonal problem. So my research brain said, okay, what's going on here? So I spoke to each one in depth. What's new? What's different? What's changed? And it was the smart meter, the electrical smart meter going in the residence, because you got yours up here in the San Francisco area way before we did in Southern California. And so then when I investigated why the headaches, why the insomnia, why the irritability and tiredness, I became horrified because these smart meters can cause all of that, plus a lot more. And so as I kept researching, I thought, okay, here's another book. And so it came out to be my EMF Freedom book, the one that's over there on the far, it'd be your far left, right? There's over 400 references in here proving the damage, proving that they're causing all these symptoms. And we really need to pay attention to it. So then Sally asked me to write an article for, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where the advance is, for the Western Price Journal. And so I thought, well, I'll just look up the latest articles because my sunscreen book is about 6 years old. And so I thought I'd look up what's the 2017 research, and became so horrified that everything I'd seen 6 years previously was true, plus much worse than ever imagined. And so after 90 pages, I decided, okay, this is another book, because not just a journal article. So the subtitle is Proof of Toxicity Keeps Piling Up, and it's so true. So. And we're kind of where we were. This is an ad in Time magazine from 1947. And what they said was that DDT is good for me. They have them sing you a song. And, scientific studies have shown that it's a benefactor for all humanity. Scientific studies. And they were saying, put it in your kids' lunchboxes, put it on the windowsill of the bedrooms. So that to me is where we're at with sunscreens and with electromagnetic radiation. We're saying, oh, it's great, it's beneficial, but the harm is just huge. So it was 25 years later, they banned it in 1972. because of cancers, infertility, developmental problems, and damage to the nervous system and liver. The problem is that it keeps being passed on from generation to generation, and so it's now in almost 100% of people in America, the derivative DDE. And this is not just, just being exposed to cell phones now or sunscreens now. It's going to go on to our next generations because it's harming our DNA. So then now we're getting all this wireless, and they're making it happy, like the Time magazine. DDT is good for me. And they're making it that this is how you're going to be happy. So you need all these things. And the new smart homes, I can't even imagine. One of our doctors who's using our products for all his patients, he called and he goes, could the Nest that's regulating your thermostat, could that be causing problems? And yeah, it's wireless. So he said, yeah, I haven't felt well since I put it in. So all these things. And the smart appliances, I've had people call and say, I got a new refrigerator, and they've got the smart connection to the smart meter. And he said, I haven't been well since I got it. He said, I actually called the store and told them to take it back. So, but all of our new appliances are having all these things, and the salesman can't tell you if they're there or not because they don't know. So all of these are really creating profound biochemical changes in our bodies and just havoc to our health and the health of the entire planet. So when we look at electromagnetic radiations, it's the canaries that are showing how harmful these are. I'm a canary. I started reacting to them to the point that I couldn't use a cell phone anymore, couldn't use a computer anymore, couldn't be around anybody. All these people here, I would have that many knives in my body. I would just feel like a knife going through my body. And so I actually quit going out in public and quit working. I was only halfway through my EMF freedom radiation book. I had to quit work on it. But I finally found things that helped me get back here, be able to speak to you. So, but the symptoms, I always like to include the symptoms because people don't know. The doctors don't know. This is not in the textbooks. So they don't know. And these symptoms are just, if I talk to somebody long enough, I find they have one of these symptoms and they don't relate it at all to using their cell phone or that the smart meters are on their houses. And it's been interesting over the 6 years I've been talking about this to doctors' conventions. 6 years ago, they were kind of ho-hum. But the last few years, you can just see them sit forward in their seat when I list these because these are the patients I haven't been able to help because all the testing is normal, so they don't know what to do. They really don't know. So I like to go over the spectrum with you because way over on your left-hand side, way over at 50, 60 hertz, that was our original electricity when we wired America with the electricity. And then they've been moving up into the television and radio range, and now we are up in the radar range. So radar is 1 to 100 gigahertz. Our smart meters are 2.4 gigahertz. Our phones have 2.4 gigahertz on them. So we are in the radar range, and Wi-Fi has gone up into like 80 gigahertz because they need more bandwidth. And so the new 5G that's coming, that's going to be 6 gigahertz to 100 gigahertz. So we are up in the radar range with this new 5G coming. And it's all cumulative. It all causes damage. They put the lead apron on the dental chair because X-ray radiation causes damage. Well, the electromagnetic radiation is cumulative too, the same way, exactly. Just takes longer. Symptoms aren't as pronounced. So I like to include a picture of the smart meters because so many people don't know they got them. They're almost across the whole nation now. I got to where I could tell what cities were getting them because that's where I would start getting a whole bunch of calls from women saying, I must be going into early menopause. They'd all be sprinkled around one city and, are you getting a smart meter? Oh, yeah, we got a notice in the mail. So that we got one. So on the left-hand side is the old analog clock dial safe analog meter. And then on the right-hand side is the digital readout. If it's got a digital readout, it's smart. And it's 2.4 gigahertz, exact same frequency of microwave oven. So, and it's pulsing multiple times a day, 24 hours a day, multiple times a minute, 24 hours a day. So we have got a real problem because it breaks DNA, and our DNA is designed, we're designed to repair. One of the reasons in the medical field I'm so in awe of our body, because we're designed to repair. And our DNA is designed to repair itself when it's broken. But now when we have smart meters going 24 hours a day, we have to get away from the radiation in order for it to repair. And we can't, because these are now on our residences in all of our buildings. So there was a study done in Greece, and they said they had a hard time finding a place that was free of radiation to do their experiment on their animals. In Greece, yeah. Oh, well, it's a worldwide problem. I have consulted in Africa, New Zealand. It's just the Caribbean. It's amazing to me. It really is. And in Africa, I said, "You're in Africa. How can you have that much radiation?" And they said, "We know that our only communication is cell phones, and once they put the cell towers up, we've been sick." So they knew it. They identified it. So the EMF radiation and sunscreens all cause the same damage. That's why I combine these together. They all create oxidation. So they create what's called reactive oxygen species and free radicals. And these cause a lot of harm inside the body. They harm our mitochondria. And most of the diseases of today have mitochondrial dysfunction. And they harm the cell membrane. They're actually putting holes in every cell membrane, so our cells are leaking. They're not keeping in what they need to, and they're allowing things in that shouldn't be in there. So, and definitely cancer. I've spoken at a lot of cancer conferences. There's just no doubt about it. So we're being oxidized. We just can't see it. It's like this. You know, this is oxidation. The rest you can see on that outside, but, you know, if we could see what's happening in our bodies, we probably wouldn't have gone down this path this long. So this is a blood-brain barrier. It not only puts holes in our cell membranes, it's putting holes in every protective barrier. Our blood-brain barrier, the placenta, so toxins are getting into our poor fetal babies as they're being developed, and also into the gut lining, and this is the food allergies today. When they put in the smart meters in our neighborhood, by the time I had done all this research, one judge in California ruled that it couldn't be mandatory to have a smart meter. So we opted out when they finally moved to Southern California, and got both our neighbors to opt out. So the nearest smart meter was way across the street and way behind our backyard. So I thought, hey, they're rolling them out, I'm fine. Way too far away for a problem. In 4 days, I had a rash on my ankle, week up my leg, 30 days my entire body, and 30 days allergic to every food. Because I knew I had antibodies to the food because of mercury poisoning 20 years ago. And but once I healed my gut, I was fine. I could eat everything because the foods aren't leaking in. And so it was really a challenging time because I was using things that I had bought for radiation. I had pendants I was wearing. I had things on my computer, on my cell phone. And so and plus I didn't think that those that far away could impact me that much. So 12 doctors, not one of them knew how to help me. Not one. So, because they're not trained in this. This is all new. So, but this is a rat brain, and the top is a normal brain, and the bottom is a rat that was only exposed to one cell phone at 200 milliwatts. 200 milliwatts. Our phones are now up to 1.6 watts. So 200 milliwatt for 2 hours. And how much are we being exposed to? And so that bottom picture, those arrows are pointing to the dark spots where the blood-brain barrier leaked, the brain cells died. And this is happening to all of us. So we also, the reason for the fatigue, we lose our energy, we lose our gasoline, or ATP. So in 30 minutes from exposure to a cell phone, it drops 27%. So it's no wonder at the end of the day, people are saying, boy, I don't have any energy. So, and then because of the leaking of the cell membrane, there's a total calcium imbalance because that needs to be finely regulated, and it no longer is. And then the insomnia is because the cell phone radiation destroys our melatonin. So the lab animals show this very well. And we need to be able to sleep and do our reparative sleep. So I get phone calls from people saying, I haven't slept in months, just months, because they're totally miserable. And this goes along with the suicide rate. Our teenagers are killing themselves. They're committing suicide. And I believe it's the electromagnetic radiation. For one thing, they can't sleep, but it destroys our neurotransmitter balance. And I've been on nationwide phone calls where I hear from cities all over the nation where the high schoolers are killing themselves. And I've got the evidence in my book of the chemical imbalance. So, but melatonin does more than just allow us to sleep. So it really functions to help our muscles, and it acts as an antioxidant. It helps protect against cancer. So we really need to protect our melatonin. And if we lose sleep, it helps cause mitochondrial damage. So it's just kind of this cycle that we've set up with this cell phone and Wi-Fi radiation. So this is brand new. I only just got this across my desk a week or so ago, that the California State Department of Health has been doing a study, and they say that if the cell phone is in a poor reception area, it actually increases its radiation 10,000 times. So they say on there, don't ever use in a 1-bar reception area. So maybe the cell phone companies knew this. I don't know. So, but they also say, don't carry them in your pocket, but then don't carry them in your purse. It's right near where your pocket would be. So that's the damage from the EMF radiation. And then sunscreens, the whole concept is wrong. They're either hormonally active endocrine disruptors or tiny little zinc oxide or titanium dioxide nanoparticles. And both of these, all of these cause damage. There's not one chemical approved by the FDA for sunscreen protection that is safe, not one. And the whole concept is wrong. And doctors in 1980s and 1990s said that it's not been proven that the sun would cause melanoma, and said that the scientific rationale does not support the existing evidence. And pending further studies, we shouldn't recommend it. And their studies said the sunscreens failed to protect against melanoma and failed to protect against basal cell carcinoma. And they were ostracized in the medical journals, just ostracized, by doctors who were funded by the pharmaceutical companies and the cosmetic companies, because they both make the sunscreens, and they're making billions of dollars. And these doctors were right, because this is what melanoma's done since sunscreens were introduced. So at the bottom we show where in 1978 was the first FDA-approved UVB sunscreen, and melanoma kept going up, and they go, oops, we made a mistake, that if you only block UVB, you let in the UVA, and the UVA can cause the melanoma. But then it kept going up. So then they decided, well, let's do the titanium dioxide and the zinc oxide because it covers a broader spectrum. But it still is going up. And this is why. So when you look at the ray penetration from the solar radiations, all the way on the left-hand side, 4% is ultraviolet. That's all of the total solar spectrum. 4% is ultraviolet. And that's your broad spectrum, the UVA and UVB. The UVB is what causes the sunburn, and you can see on that top diagram there that it only hits the top part of your skin. And then UVA goes a little deeper. But we sit in the sun a lot longer because we're no longer getting sunburned. It's like we cut the red warning light to our dashboard, because that's what our sunburn was. It was saying, hey, you've run out of antioxidants, get out of the sun. And so we're now sitting in 47% near infrared, all of that on the right-hand side. Those rays go much deeper. These cause a lot more damage. And 7 years ago, I attended an international dermatology conference where they were discussing things that could block the infrared, because they knew this was the problem. They had the same diagram up there. But it's even more horrifying because we're down in the mitochondria. We're down inside the cellular structures. We don't want to block anything down in there. So the best thing is to really get out of the sun and then eat high antioxidant diets. And there's no doubt about the damage this is causing. This is talking about all the things that are impacting our globe today. And they talk about the manufactured nanomaterials, which is your zinc and titanium, as well as the ultraviolet or sunscreen filters that are contaminants, and they're impacting all of the planet, the soil, the air, the water, animals. They're in all the water. It's in every ocean, every sea, every river, every lake. And it doesn't come out in waste treatment plants, and it doesn't come out in water filters that we can buy. We can't get it out, these sunscreen chemicals. So they're showing that it goes into the human, and it's causing all these problems, and we are seeing all these problems today of the cancers and infertility and poor sperm and malformation of the fetuses. So this is all happening in glucose metabolism. EMF raises blood sugar. There's just no two ways around it. And then when we block the sun from hitting our skin, we need the sunshine. It's very beneficial. We block our ability to make vitamin D because UVB in the skin allows us to manufacture our own vitamin D. So we're creating whole bunches of people that are vitamin D deficient. And it's really, vitamin D helps prevent cancers. So this study, 175 countries, the more sunshine, the less multiple myeloma. So the higher they went up in the latitudes around the globe, there was more myeloma. The closer you got to the equator, less myeloma. So this proves how beneficial the sunshine is. So, and the problem with it being in our water now, it's in 96% of Americans, even those who say they've never used sunscreen. So there's no getting away from it. And 85% of Swiss breast milk samples. So our babies are drinking it. And it's in all the cosmetics. And the damage to the fetus, no woman should use any cosmetic that's got an SPF value because all of them are bad. And all the cosmetics, the foundation, the lipstick, all have SPF, all have titanium dioxide in them. So, and they also harm the MTHFR. I don't know if any of you have been familiar with that problem, but it prevents our ability to detox correctly. And really, the sunscreen chemicals cause this change in that gene. And I have a niece who called me. She grew up on a lake with tons of sunscreen and tons of people going in there to boat all summer long. And she called me and she said, my doctor figured out I've got a defect in my MTHFR gene. Well, it makes sense because she just grew up immersed in sunscreens. So they try to say you don't absorb the titanium dioxide or the zinc oxide, and these arrows are pointing to the titanium dioxide nanoparticles inside the cell and inside the nucleus, and they actually get in and harm DNA division. So, and they do harm our mitochondria. So again, we've got EMF harming our mitochondria, we've got titanium dioxide harming our mitochondria. So it's absolutely no wonder we're having mitochondrial dysfunction diseases multiply. So they find them in the lungs, the blood, lymph, liver, kidney, spleen. And in the brain, even when you stop using it, it continues to build up in the brain. So it is in the body. And then in sprays, it goes from the nose to the brain real quick when you inhale it. So the sprays are not a good idea. The titanium dioxide, when they look at pregnant mice being exposed to titanium dioxide, when the day the pup is born, the brain has titanium dioxide throughout the whole brain. And when they monitor them for 21 days, just in 21 days, they have 1,887 genes altered. And these are brain genes. These are brain genes that are connected to brain development, to the death of the cells, to our ability to reduce oxidative stress, and harms our mitochondria and increases inflammation and neurotransmitters. And these doctors who did this research said there's so much damage in the brain from the titanium that there will be no doubt there'll be onset of psychiatric disorders in adulthood from these kids. So one of the things that happened, my first sunscreen book really said how bad nanoparticles are for zinc and titanium. And then we started hearing from manufacturers saying, well, we're safe, we're non-nano, we're micro, and we're natural mineral micro. This is the sizes of what they use in sunscreen. This is the powder, and the powder that they all use, 75% of the titanium is nano, and 33% of the zinc is nano. So they cannot give you a formulation that is nano-free. It's impossible. And they can't measure it either, because we're down really, really tiny. We're down 1/5,000th of diameter of human hair. So there's no ability to really look at them. When they looked at the difference between the micro of, the definition of nano is less than 100 nanometers. And when they look at micro at 160 and nano at 33, they cause the same damage. So these things that they're saying are we're safe, we're non-nano, that's not true. Causes increased cell division in the esophagus and the colon, increased damaged sperm, and increased damage to the testicles. Abnormal cell division in the bone marrow cells, so we're getting abnormal blood cells. And so it's not true that non-nano is safe. So what are they putting? The FDA has allowed titanium dioxide to be a food additive, and it's white, and it makes things whiter. So it's in our white foods, and it's in pudding. I told a pregnant gal at a health food store, she was in the cash register, and she's pregnant, and I said, make sure you don't have any titanium dioxide. And when I went in the next week, she goes, there's titanium dioxide in the white pudding in the health food store. So, because it makes it whiter. So, it's in our toothpaste, even the health branded toothpaste, it's definitely in there. It's in our candies, it's in our gum. It's definitely in the gum. And one of the research articles I read, it was showing a child that's eating all these candies and chewing all this gum, and the amount of titanium dioxide he's absorbing compared to an adult. And it's staggering what our kids are imbibing here. It's in our makeup. There's just no two ways around that. I make sure that any makeup I buy does not have titanium dioxide. Because if you put it in lipstick, you're eating it, you're swallowing it, and absorbing it. And it's in our fish. And it's not just titanium dioxide in our fish. All the sunscreen chemicals are in the fish. All of them, even the endocrine disruptors. So because they're in the water, so the fish absorb them, so they're in the muscles of the fish. So this is a real problem, because how do we get away from not absorbing these things? And then it's bioaccumulative, so the larger the fish, the more sunscreen chemicals are in it. And what's really disturbing is in swimming pools, they're calling them toxic sunscreen chemical dumps, because it alters as it hits the chlorine. And so all our kids are having sunscreen put all over them before they get in the pools or the river or the ocean. And in the pools, it actually alters the chlorine byproducts, alter the chemicals into what are called trihalomethanes, which are carcinogenic. And so we've got our kids swimming in these pools in these carcinogens. They've absolutely connected it to intestinal and bladder cancer, and harms the reproductive system and the liver, kidney, and nervous system. So I live in Southern California. I used to live up here. I moved to Southern California so I could swim every day. So in the ocean or in the pools, I moved to a place that had 22 pools. open all year, 24 hours a day. I can't swim in them anymore, not since sunscreens were introduced. I just get such a horrible headache. No matter what I do, no matter if I try to go when there's not a lot of people, I still get this horrible headache because it takes time to get all those sunscreen chemicals out of there. So, and I don't swim in the ocean anymore where there's a lot of people. On our busy beaches in Southern California, if I go on the beach on Monday or Tuesday after a busy weekend, all I smell is dead fish because it's killing the fish. So these sprays are bad, and then it's very difficult to see all these advertisements. We're natural, we're kid safe. And then the sprays are even worse because I said it goes straight to the brain. So the researchers that are looking at this, they're saying titanium dioxide, a morally unacceptable societal experiment because it's so damaging. And how do we get it out? Ever since I started this second sunscreen book, I've talked to every doctor. I speak at a lot of doctors' conventions. And I ask every doctor, how do you get it out? How do you get it out? And they don't know. It's so tiny. And what do you do to make it move? Better thing is to not be exposed to it at all. So, but there are solutions. There are smart answers. In the electromagnetic radiation, you can reduce your exposure. And then we have ways to protect yourself from the sources you can't eliminate. And then the sunscreen alternative really is high antioxidant diet. And don't buy anything with SPF. So the high antioxidant diet is really, it's incredible, because when I was doing my sunscreen book 6 years ago, I was amazed at the amount of research that was done that give people low, medium, and high amounts of a particular antioxidant and put them in the sun. It's a very easy test, actually. It really is. And all of these brightly colored fruits and vegetables, all of them, the reds, the purples, all of them have these high antioxidants, and they help repair the damage that the radiation's causing, whether it's sunscreen or whether it's EMF, because now they're beginning to come out with the articles that prove garlic powder reverses the damage in the testicles from the cell phone. So it's all the same. That's why I'm putting together, because it's the same damage and the same answer. So, and the chapter that I have in my sunscreen book, it's a very thick chapter, actually, because it's really, all of them work together. They work in synergy. And so it's not just eating one antioxidant. You really need to eat all of them, because the vitamin C and vitamin E, they work together. And the vitamin C with CoQ10 stabilizes vitamin E and generates it back to being useful again. So it's really important to put them all together. And I explain each one in that sunscreen book. And the direct antioxidants, lycopene and lutein and beta-carotene and quercetin, we hear a lot about them. And then there's indirect antioxidants. And we use those, and they're part of a whole cascade of antioxidant that continuously perpetuates itself every 3 to 4 days. So, and these indirect are very good because they're in a lot of things that we already know are helpful. The sprouts, the broccoli sprouts, cauliflower sprouts, and then all the cruciferous vegetables, the broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. I'm trying to eat Brussels sprouts. I've never liked them, but my husband loves them, but so I'm only eating them because of this research. So, but there are tons of references on all of this. And then as far as the EMF radiation, having been sensitive and having bought all these things that were on the market over the years, all these things are available, these blockers, filters, absorbers, fabric, and minerals. None of them worked for me. None of them. I just got sicker and sicker and sicker. I didn't feel well and be able to be here until I found harmonizers, which are actually working with human energy and harmonizing your human energy. And this is showing the amount of stress on the body from a cell phone. And this this was an energy doctor. We met at an energy conference. He's a brilliant man, and he tested our dots that have saved my life. And on the extreme left helps me understand why I couldn't even be near a person with a cell phone, even if it was off. Because that blue line on the extreme left, that's the stress on the body and off. Because the cell phone is still talking to the tower saying, where are you? I'm here. Where are you? I'm here. So there's still this pinging going on. That's why your messages are right there the minute you open your phone. So, and then the orange on the extreme left is on standby, which you would think that there'd be a lot less stress, but it's obviously not. And then on sending, the kind of green-orange, and then the purple on receiving. So there's a lot of stress on the body from these cell phones. And then this is different technologies. And so people will buy them and say, oh, I feel better. And then the one that's right on the right-hand side, this one, I didn't find the marker, but this one was the original harmonizing dot from 20 years ago for the old cell phones, not the new iPhones and all the power. And then the one where you can barely see anything, that's our new dot that helps reduce the stress on the body, and so people can use their cell phone again. So there are ways to reduce the stress. This helps me understand why I would feel everybody's cell phone like a knife in me. I would feel the smart meters like a knife in me, because it's not only putting holes in our cell membranes, it's putting holes in our energy field. So if we don't have a solid energy field, these cell phone radiations can go right in. And I would go down to the beach as far from a house, get away from their smart meter, and as far from a cell tower as I could get for my body to feel better. I would float like a poison pup. I would just, and I would go there, and my swelling would go down, and I'd lay there for several hours. But I could tell if somebody literally was out where the exhibit area is, if they came in with a cell phone, I would feel it. I would feel the knife in my body that far away. So, and when you think about it, they have to reach all the way to the cell tower. So they are sending that frequency. So the bottom photograph with the solid blue energy field, that's 2 days use of the technology that I found that helped me. And in 2 days, I could go back out in public and be able to stand here without feeling all of your cell phones like a knife in me. And I've gotten so many phone calls from people saying, wow, I feel these knives in my body. And it's no fun. It's really not. And then these were ninth graders in Denmark who gained international attention because they would get sick at school that had Wi-Fi, and they'd go home where they didn't have Wi-Fi, and they feel fine. They go back to school, they get sick. So they put grass seeds in the room that had the Wi-Fi router, and they put grass seeds in a room that didn't have a Wi-Fi router. So Wi-Fi router, the grass seeds couldn't grow, and in the room they could. And the harmonizing technology allows seeds to grow right near Wi-Fi routers. And the other thing that's really important is to ground, and then to know that shielding has become a big thing of painting the inside of a room or painting the house to block the EMF. The problem is the people that are doing this and recommending it then leave, and then the people are finding us who are really sick, who are really drained of energy, just they can barely function, because we need energy. We need the Earth's energy. So if we block the Earth's energy, they are really suffering horrendously. And they don't go back to the person that did the shielding because they no longer trust them. So they find us. And so the shielding it sounds like a great idea, but we need to be part of the Earth, and the Earth needs to nourish us. So, and the grounding, I've heard also, the grounding helps me tremendously. I sleep on a grounding sheet, and I've been told, oh, gee, that's dangerous. There's so much electricity in the ground. Well, if we're not going to ground to the Earth, there's nowhere to ground. So, but I feel so much better grounding. We got a defective sheet one time, And I wasn't feeling good. And finally my husband tested it, and it was defective. It didn't ground. And the minute we got one that worked, I felt so much better just the next morning. But they've absolutely proven that when you ground, less time to go to sleep, you get a better quality sleep, and less stiffness and pain in the muscles and in the joints and back, and you just feel better. You really do. So this is examples of grounding products to sleep on, and then I use a grounding pad when I'm working on the computer, but I put my feet on it, my bare feet, and then we have this chair now that is just, you sit in it and ground your entire body. So when I do my consults now, I include this because I want to know how much radiation people are exposed to, because it's become so natural that everybody has to have a cell phone, and naturally we have wireless printers and et cetera. So it's really important to look at all of the exposure. And baby monitors, I try to get mothers to, I tell them there's billions of people on the planet that never had the benefit of a baby monitor. And it's Wi-Fi, it's electromagnetic radiation that's exposing that young brain. It just really, it horrifies me, it really does. So really need to look at all of it in the smart meters. The consulting that I do, there's states that have had the electric, gas, and water, all 3 smart meters. Those people are really sick by the time they find me, really sick, because all 3 are microwaving them all day long and night. They call and they can't even turn an electric stove anymore because you finally start reacting to all electricity. I even reacted to the fluorescent lights that are in my ceiling. I have the whole ceiling's fluorescent lights. And before I found these products that helped me, I couldn't stand at the sink and wash dishes without covering myself because I'd burn. I would literally burn from those fluorescent lights. So we're getting radiated, and we just don't know it. And then really, if you look at your whole entire environment, if you have smart meters and you're in a state that allows you to not have to be forced to have them, like California, you can opt out. Do opt out. We pay $10 a month for our electric and our gas, and luckily our local water company is saying it's too expensive to switch to smart, so we still don't have smart meters there. So, but I tell people it's the best health insurance you can buy because you don't want to be microwaved 24 hours a day. You just don't. Do keep anything wireless away from your body. And we use an Android phone so we can take the battery out because there's no more pay phones. So you really need to have a phone with you. So we keep the battery out while we're driving to the next convention, which can be 16, 20-hour drives. And so that way we have the benefit of the phone, but we're not being radiated because the radiations bounce around inside. It makes it worse. So, and go back to wired everything. One of my first symptoms was my husband had a wireless mouse. I couldn't walk in his office. I just start really reacting to that wireless mouse. So, and get everything electrical out of your bedroom, all of it. TVs, radios, go back to a battery-operated alarm clock. Really, we don't need all the electricity, and we even turn our electricity off, turn our circuit breakers off at night, because the electricity is going through the walls. And we had a biological building inspector before I found the harmonizers, and he came and he said the main wiring for the whole house was right behind our headboard. And so that's radiating out of the wall. So, and we still, even though I'm fine now and I can sleep in hotels, and we still turn electricity off because we know it's cumulative, so why not reduce all we can, because it's really easy to do that. So, and do not drive a hybrid or electric. The environmental people have forgotten humans are part of the environment, and no studies were ever done. Put a human in an electric or a hybrid car, and these people are really sick. I can tell the people who find me are as sick as I was. They've been driving a hybrid or electric for about a year and a half, because all that radiation is pouring into them. And we even had a very dear friend that died of heart failure driving his hybrid. So, and we tried to warn him. He had metal in his heart, and we said, you can't be in all that electrical thing with metal in your heart.